Well, conceived about 10 years ago, the Konza Technopolis was supposed to thrust Kenya into the technological limelight, and it was dubbed as the Silicon Savannah of Africa. 10 years down the line, what have we achieved with Konza? Is the fire still there? Is the dream still valid? Or it has just died off? Joining us tonight on Inside Government is architect Reuben Motiso. He's the chair of Konza Technopolis Development Authority. He's going to expound on these issues and what exactly is Konza and what is the way forward. Thank you very much indeed for joining us.
Thank you very much, Brian. You're right. 10 years ago, there was the idea. And in the last 10 years, we've been trying to unpack this idea. It is to be remembered that the government set aside some 5,000 acres of land out in Konza, along Mombasa Road, some 70 kilometers from Nairobi. And they fenced off that piece of land and gave us a charge that, please, put up a city inside there. No infrastructure, nothing, apart from the fence around. So, the right way to do a smart city, or any city, is to do a master plan, an informed master plan developed using background information like typology, the weather around there, the networks, whether by road or by rail, by air, all those do a master plan. So a master plan was done. And to do this master plan, IFC, International Finance Corporation, were procured by the government of Kenya. And they in turn procured a master delivery partner, one, to do the master plan of Konza. That was done. The entry point for most of us in Konza, because that was now government doing it, was just about that point when we were required to procure yet another master delivery partner to assist in midwifing Konza Technopolis. We were able to identify what would be phase one, because 5,000 acres is not a small piece of land. And you can't chew all that at a go. So phase one was identified. And we started now wondering, how do we move on this phase one? Land use, imagine, land use was identified. We identified what would come where, and so on and so forth. The land then was parceled out into plots, if you like, parcels of land for different uses. Cadastral survey was done. That means placing the beacons so that one can identify this piece of land, that piece of land.
Annual rent. And we know, a lot of, back and forth, between investors and government, took place until the groundbreaking ceremony took place back in the year 2013. And I remember the former president, Mwai Kibaki, saying that Kenya was on its way now to becoming an African technological superpower. And the PS who was in charge of the principal, or the permanent secretary then, who was in charge of the ICT docket, was Dr. Bitange Demo, said that the government was keen to deliver that project in 3 years' time. 3 years' time came in. Right. 3 years' time came and passed. We're now talking about almost 7 years now. Where is Konza?
I think that was very ambitious, if it was said. The city we were supposed to deliver was not a Benduin city, tents and, such like, for nomadic persons. It had to have a permanence and even to go through the infrastructure process, because you see, in this part of the world, and I think we have lost it. People see land, they subdivide it, they start selling out the pieces of the parcels of land, even when the services are not in place. This time round, for Konza, the approach was that we must have the services in place. That is the smart aspect of it. And these services are road network, roads, energy, that's power, water twice, because we have water, fresh water going in, and recycled water getting out of a waste management system that will refine, will get the water, the wet part of the waste, set it apart as clean water, actually drinkable, only that it will be used for greening. Now, thinking through that requires a lot of time, and we are there because the master plan was clear about that. The deliverables were very clear, and from then on, we have now been moving. We have gone very far now, because only like 6 years ago, if we went out to Konza, whenever we had a function out there, we would need to get to pitch up a tent somewhere and then remove it once we are through with the function. No, right at the moment, if you go to Konza, you find a permanent building. This permanent building, funded by the government of Kenya for Konza Technopolis, is a smart building in terms of use of energy, in terms of the carbon footprint. We are on zero. We have gotten a platinum status for that piece of building. And the other buildings, we are setting standards. The other buildings will have to follow suit. Now, we had to develop our own code, building code for Konza. It's not business as usual. So for every building, for every use, we are saying, if you want to put up a school, the requirements for Konza are the following. If you want to put up an office building, the requirements out at Konza are the following. You want to put up a hospital, these are the requirements. We have had to define all that. Defining the streetscape. Defining a streetscape is something that we lost out a long time ago in this country. A streetscape is, you're on the road, and as you come from out of the road to get into the buildings, the space in between the buildings and yourself, what is there? The walkways and things like those. Coming up with a comfortable ecosystem where it's pleasurable to live, work, and do business.
Tell me this. Back then, I mean, a lot of people argued that because of our red tape in government and slow procedure, it would have been wise for this project to be given to private investors or to be developed through a PPP model, whereby the government was supposed to give space to investors and then allow them, to develop these. And the argument was this was supposed to accelerate the project.
That's what we are doing. The only intervention, government intervention, is that first building. The other government intervention, and this is great, is that they have managed to get us an anchor tenant. The anchor tenant is Kenya Advanced Institute of Science and Technology. When you have a university in a town, in fact, there are cities world over that are essentially education centers. So the anchor tenant there is that university. Once you have KAIST, the students will need to be accommodated. Who is going to provide that accommodation? The people who are supporting us on KAIST is the Korean government. But they are only going to do the faculty buildings. They are not going to do accommodation. The accommodation is to be done by private sector. Private sector has been very, very keen. We have very many applications from private sector, but we have got a vetting method. We are not dishing out land to speculators. Persons who will get the land and then they start looking for money. Persons who will get the land and then they start looking for a partner or some person to come and then they transfer on paper, something like, no. The lease document that we have got and we've been taken through the entire regime of the lease document, provides for conditions, and they are tough conditions. You don't develop, by this time, everything reverts back to us. Remember, you have paid your stand premium. Yeah. So stand premium is ours, and the land reverts back to us if you have not moved.
Still, you have a lot of government intervention, a lot of government interventions around it. Tell me this, what became of the pavilion, which was supposed to be like the show house for investors?
In design language, there is what we call the evolving aspect, the mutation, the movement. You think this way now, and as things change, you realize, no, instead of that, it should be this. Now, out at Konza, we have a project that is part of the EPCF contract that is ongoing now for phase 1, for infrastructure. That contract, which is 39 billion Kenya shillings, allows for Konza Visitor Center, close, but more elaborate than what you now find at JKIA as you enter. It's a center from out there you'll be able to experience Konza as you just get in. It's out there where you are also processed.
When is it being developed?
At the entrance, somewhere at the entrance along Mombasa Road.
When are we likely to have it up and running?
It's part of this contract, EPCF contract, which runs for 42 months. 42 months. We have done close to 8 months. So you are going to see it very soon. Inside there is out of the ordinary police station out there. In addition, there are other buildings that are supposed to go out there. But there is fear amongst a number of us that if we are not careful, Konza may not be ours in the future. Konza may belong to foreign investors, or Kenyan investors played down, and the main investors become the foreigners. So a building, we are thinking of having an iconic building out at Konza. Iconic this way. And allow me to explain. Yep. Buildings, when they are designed well, and when they can tell a story, and when they are done absolutely out of the ordinary way of doing buildings, if you like, it's like doing a building and it's defying the laws of gravity. It's about to fall, and yet it's not falling. Something that can interest. It becomes even an attraction in itself. There are buildings like those. Cities like Bilbao in Spain, it was dead until they got a museum. And that museum attracts 8 million visitors a year. People just wanting to get there and just look at the building, have a photo next to the building, and they feel good. And we are talking about that. There are cities whose streetscapes are tourist attractions. Border in Colorado is one such, where you can just go and walk around, sit, perch, and picnic and feel good. You are secure out there because one of the things that is core and very important to us is about security, is about environment, is about livability.
When you look at historical budgetary allocations, you have always been struggling, with the national treasury, to increase funding.
O'Brien, on this one, mark my word, we will not struggle on that contract, because the requirement for this contract was this: when we put out the bid, it was known to the bidder that you must come around with your money. It must be secured. And that money must land must get to Kenya. So it's available. That money is set aside. It's not for any other project. It's not part of the mainline budget, okay? So it is not like going to Treasury every time that we have run short of money. And that money, if you like, belongs to the contractor. The concept is actually a PPP of a kind. Is like a turnkey kind of thing. But what it is E standing for engineering, P for procurement, C for construct, and F for funding. So the contractor funds, and the contractor is funding.
The contractor funds. And how do they recoup their investment?
They get paid over time, a period of time, 40 years or something like that. They get paid. The instruments were perfected and they were looked at by the Attorney General's office and the National Treasury, and everyone is very happy.
Okay. So when are we expected to break ground for this?
The buildings that follow. Which building? The iconic building that I talked about. The iconic building has to go through a design process. That one has to go through a design process. But right at the moment, we have we have attracted investors, and these investors are now being onboarded. They are being onboarded, and as they get onboarded, we will start getting money. Money that is generated by Konza, because we are onboarding investors. These investors cannot be could not have been onboarded if you didn't have infrastructure. Now, one thing, for instance, that horizontal infrastructure that we are talking about, the key characteristics of this horizontal infrastructure is that you do a road. Normally you see a road. In the case of Konza, under the road, there will be a service tunnel.
Very good. You are talking about Konza in the future becoming a foreign-owned project. When you talk to the Kenya Private Sector Alliance, they will tell you that they only hear of Konza on papers. Konza is yet to engage with local investors on what role they should play. Konza is only interested in foreign players with big dollars. How true is this?
No, it's not. That's not true, and it saddens me when I get some of those comments. In fact, even from some of my best friends, that really, are you really going to deliver a city known as Konza, a smart city known as Konza, comparable to other cities in the world that go by that description? And further, when they say they don't see, they don't know, it's like some people are not reading. It's like some people are not reading. If I hear of anything myself about, say, something happening in South Africa, I'll Google it up and I'll search. Why is it difficult for Kenyans to do a search just about Konza? They'll get information about Konza. Now, when I say there's a danger of it being more foreign, is because if interest is not there, and because there's this attitude about us, me included, that until you see, you will not believe. You can't be told, you can't be given a narrative of a city that will be, and you believe in it. There are foreigners who have believed in us. But if you look at other cities, about 5 cities, smart cities that are being talked about in Africa. We are talking about Eco Atlantic. We are talking about Vision in Rwanda. We are talking about Waterfalls in South Africa. We are talking about
Hope City in Ghana.
In Ghana, those 5 and Konza. Those are the ones that are being talked about. Okay. Apart from in Egypt, where they are trying to do a new capital outside Cairo. Okay. When you look at the story about them, all of them are talking about this same time. No one is ahead of us. We are moving, and we are moving very fast. We are moving fast because we have got good support. We have the support from government. We are in constant discussions with KEPSA. That's the Private Sector Alliance. We have taken them through this story. We have told it over and over again. We have issued flyers and documents to Kenyan would-be investors We mount breakfast meetings and outreach.
So tell me, after doing all these, why are Kenyan investors not investing in Konza?
You can't say that. You can't say that because out here, I've got a list of close to 40 investors
Who are willing to invest?
who are ready to invest. And those applications are being processed at the moment. But to process this, to get for my board to say yes, is okay, they have to be satisfied.
So why are you afraid that it's likely to become a foreign-owned city in the future?
Is because when, say like at the moment, we have KAIST. It's fairly foreign. It will be Kenyan. Government is investing a little bit because we have Ketrako putting up a facility out there, 400 megawatts of a facility, and they are key to our operations because we want uninterrupted power, we want clean power. We have a substation just outside Konza and another one out in Machakos. All those three and another one at Isinya, all those will ensure that out at Konza we have clean power and continuous power, because the biggest problem for investors in this country, even local, is that you are not assured of total continuity. NCA are putting up a facility over there. NCA, that's the National Construction, that's Kenya. But we're talking about logistics facilities. We're discussing those with the various people, and Kenyans understand these things. It's up to Kenyans to come up with ideas. We can't say that we are monopoly. We have all information about what can be done in Konza. And like I said, things are moving so fast. Things that were not in vogue just 3 years ago, now they are in vogue. So it's up to people to come over to us and say, I want to do this. And can I tell you this? The first local investor for Konza is a ladies group from Makueni County, Akama Makueni. The first private investor to Konza is those ladies.
Akamba Makueni. What are they putting up?
They are putting up an office building. They are putting up this office building in anticipation. They know that investors come in different shapes and forms. There are investors who are not interested in putting up a building. They want to come and find space ready. So these ladies are thoughtful. They have thought and they have worked it out, and they convinced us that they are putting that building, and they put that building, and they will be takers. They will be takers for space.
So you already have an investor in the name of
yes,
Akamba Women's Group.
Those ones that are landed.
I mean, you also signed up an agreement with a local church to set up their a mega church inside Konza. And a lot of people were asking, I mean, Konza is supposed to be a technology city. Why are we then signing up churches?
That's a very important question. But things have changed so much. This is not the same world that we were living in, say, 20 years ago. There is what is known as Internet of Things. And even in churches, some churches are doing things, digitally. And if it's like some of the churches that you're thinking about, yes, we have got applications on churches. And these are applications that will be subjected to same criterion of, do you have the money to do it? You are not doing that. As a Christian, I sympathize a little bit that a church that comes and says, okay, fine, give me the plot and then I'll fundraise, I'll have several Arambes, and we'll get money. No, we are not talking to those at the moment. We are talking to people who have a vision, who know that if they package a business paper out to Konza and say, yes, we want this piece of land, on that land we want to do the following, and they list out those things, and they show us the business sense of what they are going to do, we'll say, fine. And it will be because IT cuts across now.
When you're scouting for investors, to invest in Konza, I want to believe that you don't just go for any investor. There is a set criteria of who you want to be an investor in Konza. Is Church one of the investors you would be looking for?
Yes, because the master plan that I talked about speaks about everything, apart from a cemetery. Okay? It speaks about everything, a church. It speaks about different uses like schools, kindergartens, and things like that. Because people will be working and living in Konza. And since they live and work in Konza, they must also enjoy a municipal standard of services out there at Konza. Other things that are also coming out at Konza are even agriculture, precision agriculture. You're talking about this plant being given enough nutrients and sufficient water to grow, not more, not less, that kind of thing. Now, you may ask, what is agriculture to do with Konza? Well, we must first of all support the Big Four agenda, but next to Konza is an agricultural research institute. Yeah. We want to work with them. We are working with universities, existing universities.
Architect, anybody listening to you and watching you on this show would be wowed and hailed, by the kind of revelations that you're giving to Kenyans about Konza City. But it sounds too good, to believe. And the question that everybody is asking is, when can we have Konza fully developed and delivered to Kenyans and investors?
Right. O'Brien, maybe Kenyans have gotten to a point where they don't believe in good things. They start, things become too good to believe in. But as an architect, I believe in a bright future. And I know there are very many Kenyans who want to believe in that bright future. And Konza will not be developed overnight. It's a city, and city making takes time. Inside 20 years is when you'll probably be seeing a ready Konza in every respect. But from 6 months from now, Konza will be alive because there will be people who are working there, in the office there, in our offices. There will be others. In fact, if you go there and look at the labor camp, you will find out there is now, in fact, census people are out there even enumerating persons out there because there is a population currently. There is a population. And there will be a population, quite a population, in about 15 months' time. There will be quite a population in Konza. I can tell you that.
You were talking about, other cities, that are coming up. And you talked about the Kigali Innovation City, which is being developed in Kigali. They started in the year 2015. They're talking about handing over this project next year, 2020. So those are 5 years. Well, it may be small in size. But do you think there are lessons we can learn from how Rwandese have done their innovation city?
Incidentally, the master planners for Kigali city are the same as for Konza, same people. And their starting point is mass housing. That's their starting point. And our starting point is infrastructure. Infrastructure in Kigali is tough to do because of the mountains. Out here, we benefit from the terrain. The terrain is very good. I don't think that at this stage there is much we can learn from Kigali. In fact, there isn't much we can also learn from the Ghanaians. Not even much we can learn from the Nigerians, the South Africans as well. And fortunately, for me, I operate offices in those places. And I know, I'm in touch with what is happening. And I don't think that, I think there is some impatience on the part of Kenyans, and I understand that impatience.
As we wind up, Architect, tell me this. You've been part of Konza's story, since its inception. Do you feel that there are areas we could improve on in order to deliver this city within budget and on time?
I've been part of the story nearly from the beginning, and I thank the government of Kenya for this First, I was a director for some time, and then I'm serving my term now as chairman. The one thing that I would want removed from our thinking, from our mindsets, the skepticism, that feeling that it will not work, it will not be done. We have watched very many projects and seen very many things and read about many projects out in Kenya that have been stillborn. No, Konza will not be stillborn. And the spirit is clear, and is clear not just from myself, even at government level. The support that, the budgetary support that we have gotten from the National Treasury, I was arguing out the budget provisions just on Friday at the National Treasury. And they understood us. We've been working with just under 30 people at Konza. We don't want to overemploy, but those 30 people have done wonderful things.
I want you to look into your camera and promise Kenyans that Konza will one day be become a reality within our lifetime.
Now, Kenyans, listen to me. All things remaining the same, I can assure you that Konza will be a reality, and very soon. Watch this space. Thank you.
Architect, Chairman, thank you very much indeed for finding time to be with us here. Very good. We've been talking to the chairman of the Konza Technopolis Development Authority, Architect Reuben Motiso. Our discussion revolved around the development of Konza. When are we having this city indeed delivered, and when will the first tenant occupy that city? Well, my name is O'Brien Kimani. Thank you very much. You have been watching Inside Government right here on KBC Channel 1. We'll see you again on that at the same time right here. Until then, have a good night.